Biopharma research used to be vertically integrated. So it was the case that a large pharmaceutical company would typically take a drug from the discovery phase all the way to market. And over the past 20 years, one of the fundamental changes in the macroeconomics of pharma has really been that a lot of early stage innovation is outsourced from universities. So instead of the typical process of a pharmaceutical company having an in-house department that's really developing drugs, typically they now go around to tech transfer offices, to academics, to universities, and try to source the best innovation that they can find really as cheaply as possible. This has changed the way that academics work as well. It's often the case that an academic is not really able to develop a drug in an end-to-end way. They can typically work in the very early stages of drug discovery, but they don't have the resources to really be able to bring a drug to market. And this issue has really changed the way that drugs are priced, that drugs are accessed, and ultimately the types of drugs that make it to market. If we look at the incentives that exist in the biopharma development space, currently, the capital allocation needed to bring a drug to market is quite high. So it's almost always the case that a drug needs to be profitable in order for a drug to actually make it to market. That said, there are a lot of academics that are working on therapeutics that might not be particularly profitable. Maybe the patient size is quite small. Maybe it's a rare disease. Maybe the competitive landscape is already quite difficult. So the risk that a pharmaceutical company might take is quite limited. Typically, they go after blockbusters. One of the things that we're trying to do with Molecule is really create an environment where patients, patient advocacy groups, communities that really care about seeing a drug come to market have a way to finance that therapeutic and help govern how it's accessed, how it's developed, so that in the end, drugs that wouldn't be developed by pharmaceutical companies are ultimately able to come to market. Decentralized technologies are changing the way that we work, the way that we interact, and the way that we collaborate. One of the primary changes that we've seen going from Web 2 to Web 3 is really the strength of communities and how people are able to organize around a common goal and achieve something that would not be possible by a single company. Molecule's really playing into this idea of leveraging a decentralized future. We see a future where academics, researchers, and patient communities come together to bring drugs to market that would not have otherwise been possible using conventional means. One of the most significant advances that we've seen in terms of how these communities organize and potentially fund really promising ideas are the creation of DAOs. DAOs are decentralized autonomous organizations, and Molecule believes that these organizations will play a significant future in the way that drugs come to market. So we're beginning to see the first formation of what we call biotech DAOs. These are DAOs that typically are created in a specific therapeutic area, whether that be something like cancer research, a rare disease area, longevity research. And basically you have individuals from all different backgrounds who care about these research areas coming together, pooling their funding and pooling their resources, and investing in creating a structure where research and therapeutics development can be funded and brought to market, in some cases even without a pharmaceutical company. Molecule as a marketplace is playing a key role in the development of biotech DAOs and also in the creation of what we call these really decentralized communities that are interested in bringing therapeutics to market. We've created a framework, it's called an IP NFT, and this basically allows IP assets and research projects that are developed in academia to be plugged directly into Web3, to be held and funded by DAOs, and ultimately governed by communities that care the most about making sure that these therapeutics come to market. One of the most interesting trends that's happened in the Web3 space recently has been the emergence of NFTs and this creator economy for artists. NFTs have really helped move digital art from something that was maybe thought of as a bit more disposable into something that is highly collectible and highly sought after. And for this group of artists that have really been working to create digital art over the past years, has really helped create an economy that was able to fund and accelerate a lot of their careers. Molecule is hoping to create a similar economy for researchers. We want to empower researchers to be more autonomous, to have more control over how their therapies come to market, and to enable researchers to tap into a new funding source that previously was not available. As a researcher, one of the most time-consuming parts of your job is finding funding. Typically, something like 50 to 80% of a very successful researcher's time will be spent trying to garner grant funding, trying to garner private investment into the work that they're doing. And this is a problem because it really distracts from your ability to do science on a day-to-day basis. We believe that we can unleash the full potential of researchers by really making more and more time available for the fundamental work that they want to do, and that's being at the bench, coming up with good ideas, and actually moving these advances from the discovery phase to market. We do that by creating a very easy-to-use interface where the researcher can just upload the information around their project, explain what they're doing, explain the impact, and specify the funding that they need. And then communities, whether it be a patient who's interested in a cause, a biotech company that really likes this idea and wants to support you, can very easily commit funding and you can get to work. Molecule is a platform that was created to help anyone who's working in translational drug development move their discoveries from bench to bedside. We really envision researchers that are interested in working with communities, working with patients, and trying a different funding approach from what is typically common within the status quo. So if you're somebody who's interested in having a patient or a patient advocacy group directly fund your research and have a role in governance over how that research ultimately comes to market, Molecule might be the right place for you to seek funding.